What's up, everybody? Welcome to Mick Thinks Tiny. My name is Mick. So if you're interested in going tiny and you know you want to be in a tiny house community, then you know you want to be somewhere that's a little bit warmer, maybe closer to a major city, this is the perfect video for you because today I'm going to talk about 4 tiny house communities in South Carolina. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and let's get into it. Let's talk about these tiny house communities in South Carolina. Alright, welcome back. So today we're talking about tiny house communities in South Carolina. There's a couple reasons why I wanted to talk about South Carolina. First and foremost, someone did drop a comment and they asked whether or not there were tiny house communities in the state, so shout out to that person. I figured it would be worth it to do a little bit of research and figure out what tiny house community living options exist for those of you who are interested in moving to the area. The other thing is that South Carolina in general is going to be a little bit more affordable than some other parts of the country. So the median family income for South Carolina sits a little bit below $70K, which is about 10 grand under the $80,000 a year median family income we've got going for the entire country. So in general, you're going to find potentially more affordable housing there and just lower cost of living for your daily cost. The other piece of it is that you've got some really cool locations. So you've got like Charleston, South Carolina. You've got some beaches that are pretty beautiful. I've been to Hilton Head Island. It's gorgeous. And then the tiny house laws are pretty favorable from what I can tell. So it does vary by county, but as an example, Greenville County, you can have a tiny house there. It's got to be 400 square feet or less, and you've got to put it in a pocket neighborhood. But the positive thing about that is that you individually get to own the lot. So when we're talking about tiny house communities, the main things that have stuck out to me in general when I do the research, but also in terms of the things that y'all talk about are affordability, whether or not the lot rent is affordable for you, and what your monthly overhead is, the amenities that you have in the actual community, the amenities nearby, and then also the overall location. So we're going to talk about 4 tiny house communities today. I found 4. I did a Google search, pretty standard Google search. I just wanted to know what was in the entire state. I will say there's not a ton of options, but I was able to narrow it down to these 4. Some of them tick all the boxes for affordability and amenities and location, and others do not. Alright, so first up is Creek Walk Cottages. So this is a pretty traditional tiny house community in terms of what most of y'all are familiar with. They are located outside of Greenville, South Carolina, in a city called Travelers Rest. So it's about 10 miles outside of a major city, which is a huge plus. Their lot rent is the cheapest that I have seen thus far, especially considering everything that it includes. So for $490 a month, you get power, water, sewer, trash, taxes, amenities, and you get maintenance. That's pretty good. It's the best one I've seen so far. If you know of anyone else if you know of someone that's beaten that price for monthly lot rent, please do drop it in the comments. People would love to know. You do have to buy one of their homes from what I can tell. I'm not sure if you can bring your own. And it is a newer community. It's a part of the Eclipse family. So Eclipse is a home technology company based out of South Carolina. They've got a couple developments. We're going to talk about one of their other ones, but that's Creek Walk Cottages. Next up is Farmers Cove. So this is their other development through Eclipse. Farmers Cove is based in Taylor, South Carolina, so 8 miles outside of Greenville. So they're actually pretty close to each other. If you look at a map, one's like on one side and one's on the other. They're about 20-minute drive to that major city. Farmers Cove is set up a little bit differently. You do have to buy the homes. $160,000 seems to be their starting price for the tiny homes, which I know is a little bit pricier. I'm pretty sure you own the land though too, but don't quote me on that. I will double check. I'm not sure if you can bring your own. And again, it is a newer community. I'm just going off of the information on the websites because I want to make sure that it's as close as possible to what y'all would have access to. So I didn't reach out to any of these places to get further information, but yeah, so this is what we've got so far. Next up is Ridge Spring RV and tiny home community. Now, I know some of you were thinking, okay, there's no way I would live in an RV community, but the way they set this up, I think it's a pretty good option, so that's why I wanted to include it, and it seems to be pretty established too, which I know matters to a lot of you all. So Ridge Spring RV and tiny home community is in Ridge Spring, South Carolina. They are 42 miles outside of Columbia, so another major city in the area. So again, you've got your Walmart. I made sure to check to see that these major areas do have access to your basic things. It's about $650 a month, and that includes utilities. It's not clear what utilities includes, but I'm assuming it's going to include like water, sewer, trash, potentially even internet as well too. You can bring your own tiny house. It's a long-term community. It's pet friendly, so it's set up like a pretty standard, similar to an RV setup, but a little bit more spacious. Last up is the Cottages of Anderson. Okay, this one is an interesting one. It's located in Anderson, South Carolina. The setup is similar to a apartment complex. It's the best thing I can sort of compare it to, because they are, okay, so they're 30 miles outside of Grenville, so that's great. It's not too bad in terms of your drive to a major city. They're about 40 miles from a major airport. That's perfect for some of you who work remotely, or you're still, you're shifting into retiring, or and that sort of thing, or maybe you want to travel to see your family, you want to be close to a major airport. This one's got you covered. But they're all rentals from what I can tell. 1 and 2 bedroom tiny homes, $1,000 a month, but they're brand new. You've got washer and dryer, porches on all of them. So you've got tons of amenities. I'm not really sure if there's rent to own options, but that's something I can look into. So in general, you've got 3 main options when we're looking at these 4 communities. You have the option to either buy the home and rent the land, which is a newer model that we're seeing coming up for tiny house communities, where you're not bringing your own, you're buying the house that they have available because they're builders as well too, and you rent the land for a certain amount. You can either rent the land, rent the home in general, which is the one I don't like, sort of like through Anderson. Cottages at Anderson is an example of that, where you're just renting the home, which I know is a good option for some of you, because if you're considering going tiny, right, but you've never done it before, that could be a potential option for you to transition into before you make the full jump. So I would consider like renting a tiny home to be something in between downsizing all the way and buying a tiny house and just going full plunge, making sure that you like the area, you like the people in the community, and just test it out. I think that's a great option. The other option is to buy the home and to buy the land, which is a growing market, I think, in the tiny house industry. I've seen some of you comment about this, whether or not you can own the land. So all of these options that I've presented for y'all in this video give you one of those choices. So again, remember that it matters so much where you live. So today we're talking about the South, we're talking about South Carolina, but there's so many other places in the United States as well too, obviously, and all of those different regions in the US are going to significantly affect the price of the land for these lots where people are actually selling them off. It's going to affect the price of the tiny homes for these companies, where you have to buy one before you move in, and ultimately it's going to affect the price for the tiny house community. So this is kind of, I don't know if I would say this is the cheapest area of the places you could go tiny. Obviously, parts of like the lower part of the Midwest would be maybe more affordable, like Iowa, Nebraska, just going off of like housing stuff, potentially parts of Missouri. But this is definitely a more affordable part of the country compared to other parts. So the South is definitely going to give you a better, I guess, more bang for your buck, for lack of a better expression, compared to the West Coast, which we have seen is very, very expensive. All right, so these are your 4 options. Summing them up, you've got Creek Walk, which is your traditional sort of like standard tiny house community, $490 a month. Pretty much includes everything that you'll need in terms of utilities. But from what I can tell, you got to buy the tiny house. I don't know if you can bring your own. You've got Farmers Cove, where you buy the tiny house, but I don't know if you own the land, which would be an interesting model. I'm not really sure if I've seen that one yet. I'm going to assume you can own the land, but I don't actually know. Ridge Spring, which is the RV tiny house combo, but again, it's like $650 a month, so it's more affordable in that sense. And then you have the Cottages at Anderson, which is just a straight rental model, where you would pay about $1,000 a month. So what do you think? Which one would you want to live in? Which one would you consider? They're pretty much in the same area. I believe it was the Ridge Spring tiny house and RV community is the only one that's not near Grenville. So you're looking at Grenville in general, regardless of the 3 you pick between the Cottages, Creek Walk, and Farmers Cove. But I want to know which one you would stay in. And I want to know of these 4. So of Creek Walk, Farmers Cove, Ridge Spring, and the Cottages at Anderson, which one would you like to see on the channel? Which one would it benefit you the most to have on the channel, where I interview them and you get to know more about them, development, potentially do like a small video tour? So which one would you want to see? Drop the name in the comments. So Creek Walk, Ridge Spring, Farmers Cove, or the Cottages at Anderson, and I'll reach out to them and see which ones, if not all of them, I can get on the channel. But yeah, I appreciate you guys. I think that, man, it just as like the industry continues to grow and things get more expensive, it's more and more important to make sure you just do so much research. I know this seems like a lot, but you really need to have like an Excel sheet with tons of information about each one of these communities. You need to tour every single place before you go. I would never recommend you sign a lot you sign a lot agreement or a reservation, unless it's refundable, with the tiny house community before you go and see it. So make sure you do that. If you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out, drop comments. I love hearing from you guys. And as always, don't forget to think tiny. Oh, and also, if you want to check out other tiny house communities, you can check out this playlist here. Tons of tiny house communities all over the country at this point. And yeah, let me know if there's anything you want to see, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Don't forget to think tiny.